Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at Genesis Communications Network. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to give us a call, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933. If you'd like to listen on your telephone listen line, 712-770-9418. Provided by Global Star. Thank you, Global Star. I'm delighted to be introducing you to your newest instructor. His name is Mark Allred. And let me spell that for you. Mark is as in on your mark. Allred as in what happens when that fourth grade boy gets the kiss from the prettiest girl in the class right on the cheek. Allred. Mark Allred is with handgunconversion.com. Handgunconversion.com. You've heard those advertisements right here on GCN. I heard them too. And so when I heard them for the first time, I thought I need to call this company and I'd like to talk to the boss. So I called. I was greeted very politely, as good as it gets. And I was connected with Mark Allred. And I started asking him some questions. I told him who I was, what our relationship is, that he is advertising on USA Prepares on Genesis Communications Network. And I asked him about his products. He answered my questions. I thought, this is a broadcast that we need to have. So as we go further down this road of the Corona panic and the violence in America, you may want to defend yourself. You may have a 1911 pistol. You may have a Glock, or you may have a Springfield Armory XD. And you may want to convert that very quickly to a carbine. And you may want to convert it back and forth and back and forth. And is it legal? And we have a whole bunch of questions relating to that because there's a lot of confusion regarding can you convert it back and forth. And so here is Mark Allred. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Vincent. Glad to be with you.
Did I report accurately what happened with you and me initially?
Oh, yeah. Very much so.
Okay.
We had a nice chat.
All right. So, Mark, you are with Mech Tech Systems. You're the GM, the general manager. You've been with the company about 7 years, and you grew up blinking and shooting with your father. You've lived in Montana since 2005. You've got some amount of guns, probably more than you need, but not as many as you want. Is that true?
That would be accurate.
Okay. Yeah. And so you are the guy who runs the company, produces the product, talks with customers, make sure that everything is perfect for the customer. And let's talk about what it is, because you're the expert. What is a conversion unit, a carbine conversion unit, also known as a CCU, carbine conversion unit? What is it?
Well, the CCU is a firearm accessory that goes on top of your pistol frame, just like your pistol slide. For the pistols you mentioned, the Glock line, the XD, XDM, Mod 2s, and 1911s, and allows you to shoot pistol caliber through a carbine. The CCU has a 16-inch barrel and comes with a variety of buttstocks, and so you can customize it. We also have multiple rail configurations, so depending on what type of accessories you want to hang on it or types of sights you want to use, we can accommodate pretty much anything. And it vastly increases the performance of a pistol round. It's amazing how far you can reach out accurately with those 9mm, 10mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 45 ACP rounds.
Okay, so why would somebody want one of these? I mean, if I carry a 1911, I've had a 1911 for a long time, and it works fine for me. Why would I want one of these conversion units? Now, I am not being negative. I'm just asking so that the class can understand why one of these might be desirable. What's the reason to have it?
Well, that's a very good question. We have multiple uses. We have customers buying this as their bug out gun that they keep in their bag near the door or in their car. We've got customers who shoot competition, and U.S. PCA several years ago came out with a pistol caliber carbine division, and we've got many customers using it for that. We've for years had customers using it in 3-gun competitions where it's almost ideal because, in a 3-gun, you've got rifle, pistol, and shotgun. Well, with our unit, now you have essentially one lower, although most people will dedicate a lower to their CCU, but you only have one set of mags for 2 of the competitions and ammos. We have guys who just like to go out and plink, and it's a whole lot cheaper to plink with 9mm or any pistol carbine or pistol caliber than it is with a high caliber rifle round. And we also have a number of LEOs, law enforcement officers using them, carrying them in their cars. Some of them even carry them as their entry weapon on SWAT because, again, they're using the same trigger as their duty pistol, same magazine, same ammo, and they like them. And most of them are using the 9mm because they don't get the penetration that a .223 round does. So they use them as an entry weapon. So there's many we have guys hunting with them. That's mostly with the 10mm and the 45 ACPs. But we've got guys hunting deer with them out to 150 yards.
So let's see if we've got this right. So Mark, I've got a 1911 45 ACP. I can remove the lower and attach your barrel accessory, and now I have a carbine rifle. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I can use the same magazines. I can use everything the same. And what is the benefit of that 16-inch barrel as compared to my, let's say, around 4-inch barrel? What does it do for me?
4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
You get a noticeable increase in velocity at the muzzle. Depending on your bullet weight and caliber and powder loads, you could see anywhere from about a 90 to almost 300 foot per second increase in muzzle velocity.
That's between, in my case, that would be between 10 and 30%.
Yes.
Roughly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about distance that the bullet will fly with that 16-inch barrel versus the 4-inch barrel that I carry an officer's model?
Well, we haven't particularly shot them for distance to see what the maximum distance is. I know I have seen videos on YouTube by other outfits. One that was using another carbine that had a 16-inch barrel with a 9mm, and they were hitting a gelatin block at 440 yards. And we did have the gentleman that runs our Facebook site used a 10mm unit, and he was ringing the gong consistently at almost 500 yards. Now, with your 45, that's going to be might be a stretch, but I wouldn't be surprised if you were hitting a target pretty consistently at 200 to 300 yards with your 45 ACP.
That's really impressive. Really, really impressive. Okay. So what about I've been to gun shows in the past. Haven't been to any recently because of the Corona panic. And that's my term for it, the Corona panic. But at some of these gun shows, I've looked at, AR-15 pistols. And it's really complicated. You can buy a lower and you can buy a short barrel, and then you can buy what's called a blade for the stock. And they say, yeah, but once you do this, you can't go backwards. You can't make it back into an AR-15 rifle. Why is this different? Or is that wrong that you can go back and forth with the AR platform?
Well, I am not much of an expert on the AR platform. I've got one, but I know that with our unit, legally, our CCU is an accessory. So we're able to send them right to the customer's home. There's no FFL or federal paperwork needed. And we have a letter from the federal ATF stating that it is perfectly fine for you to convert your pistol into a carbine or rifle and then go back to a pistol. Now, I would imagine that with the AR pistol, that's going to be difficult because you're going to have to take out the barrel. You're going to have to, I think the receiver on an AR pistol is essentially the same receiver on the rifle. You'd have to change out the whole stock to a butt stock. You'd have to change the barrel to a longer barrel. That's just not a conversion that you're going to do easily. Our CCU takes, once you get there's a little bit of a knack to doing it. But you pick it up quick, and after you've done it 2 or 3 times, you can generally convert your pistol into a carbine with the CCU in about 30 seconds, and then back to a pistol in another 30 seconds when you need to.
Mark Allred, I'm thinking about, what we were talking about, the bug out scenario where, you've got to hop in your truck, for example, or your car. You want to take the minimum amount of weight, but you want to have the maximum amount of versatility. I think you've got it right there. I really do. Because you've got the rifle for hunting for food, protection, and if you need to move that muzzle around quickly, you've got the pistol. It's all right there. With one kind of ammunition and one type of magazine, rather than. I think this is a great compromise, considering everything.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want a little more versatility, you just get an 80% lower, as many of our customers do, and have it dedicated to your CCU.
Okay. So the website, class, if you'd like to go, is handgunconversion.com, handgunconversion.com. And that's going to take you to a website that says mectexsys.com. But just type in handgunconversion.com, and when you get to MecTechSys, you've arrived at the right place. I just want to make sure that you're not confused, like, how come I went someplace different? It's taking you to the right place. We're going to talk more about this when we come back with Mark Allred, the CEO of handgunconversion.com. I'm fascinated with this, and you might be too. Class, so we're discussing a carbine conversion unit with Mark Allred, and the website is handgunconversion.com. And let me give you a little bit of a disclaimer here, and I'll tell you a little dirty secret about radio. One of the things that's been happening in the last, let's say, 10 years in radio is that radio has been intertwined with infomercials, and what appears to be a broadcast that might be independent has been commingled with advertising. And sometimes radio personalities, of which I am one, are offered compensation, are offered money to interview people and make it appear to be just an interview. That is not the case here. That is not the case here. I have not been offered anything. I have not been contacted by a network, including Genesis Communications Network. The reason I'm doing this particular class on this particular product is I think it's something that you might want to know about. And this is USA Prepares. And I'm thinking about bugging out. I'm thinking about minimum load, things to carry, maximum versatility. And I think this is on the right track. Now, I've not shot one. I've not held one. And I've just done research on the internet. So I just wanted to tell you, this is not an infomercial. This is not biased. I'm just asking questions because I want to know. And that's why I called handgunconversion.com. Mark Allred, on the tab that talks about models, in the models area of your website, there are 3 best sellers that I'm looking at. One is called the Operator, one is called the Classic, and one is called the Executive. Can you delineate what the differences are and why one might select one over another?
Well, those are examples that are very common, are typical orders that we get. And so, really, to be honest with you, when our new website designer designed this new website for us, they actually are the ones that gave them those names. And we said, that works for us. Let's go with it. But they show you a nice variety. It's got the 3 main stocks that we offer. The fixed stock, which looks like an M4 stock because it is an M4 plastic stock, but we put it on our own adapter so it clicks on, it comes off, it doesn't adjust to another length, so we refer to it as our fixed stock. We do offer an M4 6-position adjustable stock, and then we make our own custom stock. We call it a telestock. It slides in and out on 2 steel rails, and it will compact or slide into the shortest overall length of any of our optional stocks. And then they show a variety also of our rail systems and some of the accessories that we offer, all in a package. So if somebody sees what they want, they don't have to try and find which accessories or go through our accessories list and think about it. They can see what they look like on a unit right there and just order it as a package. The CCU is very customizable, so even if you just get a basic unit, you can upgrade it down the road without any problem. All of our rails are easily installed by the users. The stocks can be switched out. They all bolt on essentially the same way to the back end of our unit. And so we've tried to keep it as straightforward for the customer as we can.
Mark, as I look at these 3 models that are your best sellers, the Operator sells for $865 rounded. The Classic sells for $633 rounded, and the Executive is $702. For bugging out, which one of them do you like the best? Would it be the Executive because it will collapse to the smallest package?
That's probably the most popular one that we hear from customers who are using it as their truck gun or under the seat gun. And we also get guys using that one for throw it in a backpack, take it into the woods. Especially if you've got a 10 millimeter pistol to put on it, makes a great anti-bear gun.
Well, the one that I happen to think is my favorite so far would be the Executive with that maximum collapsible stock. We'll be right back with Mark Allred. Mark Allred's with us. The website, handgunconversion.com, handgunconversion.com. Mark, as you know, we broadcast from our farm here in Missouri, and our boys live with us, and so Mrs. Finelli and I and our boys are farmers, and so we have a cattle farm, and we are armed all the time because we have predators around us, and there are coyotes that want to eat our calves, and so we don't appreciate that. So we are.
Go figure.
Yeah. So I went into the kitchen to grab some coffee during the last break at the bottom of the hour, and our son was in the kitchen getting ready to go back out and do some farm chores. And I said, hey, I'm interviewing Mark Allred from handgunconversion.com. And I said, so this is an upper that you can install on your lower and a 16-inch barrel. And his eyes got real big. And he said, XDM? And I said, yeah, XDM. He said, how about an XDS? Now, I looked on your website. I did not see the XDS. Now, the XDS is a Springfield Armory subcompact or compact. It's really small, 3.3-inch barrel. Do you have a model that will fit the XDS?
No, we don't, but I've got one on my hip.
You have an XDS?
Yeah, the XDS is what my wife and I each carry. We don't have we don't have any model that will fit that small a frame, including the Glock 42 and 43 and the 45. Those weren't around when the CCU was developed, and with our basic configuration and action, it might be an awfully big hunk of metal to put on top of that narrow of a frame. So we don't do it for those smaller pistols.
He loves the XDS. It's chambered in 45, and he thinks it's just a great little pocket rocket, for a lot of horsepower in a small package. Mark, if you were on the phone and one of your potential customers called in and said, look, I really like what you've got with the carbine conversion upper, but I don't know, and I don't have a handgun. I don't have a pistol, a semi-automatic pistol. I see that you've got them for the XD and the XDM, Springfield Armory. You've got them for a lot of Glock models, and you've got them for most standard 1911 automatics.
Right.
If the person said to you, Mark, assuming that we're going to get one of your conversion units, which do you like best, the XD or the XDM from Springfield, the Glock, or the 1911? What is the best mate to your conversion? What would you say?
Wow. That almost depends more on what style pistol you want to have to go along with your conversion. I like the 1911s. I have a Kimber in 45 that I will carry, and my CCU at home is for the 1911 in 45. My wife loves her XD 9mm, and so she's got a conversion unit for that pistol. If there was a performance difference between one model to the other with the CCU, that would obviously be easy to say, oh, this one is the one that performs the best. But really, the CCU pretty much performs the same way with all three models. They're quite consistent. We don't make any accuracy guarantees per se, but we've got so many people shooting 2 or 3 inch groups, even at 100 yards, that we can say that they're accurate regardless. So it really comes down more to when you're going to use it just as a pistol, which pistol would you rather be carrying?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I thought I'd ask that question because I carry a 1911 and I really like it. But, I've heard people say to me, what's wrong with you? That thing was made to be used 100 years ago. What's wrong with you?
I hope your answer is it's lasted 100 years because it's a damn good pistol and it's reliable.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Some people say it's hard to handle. I think I'd rather have shot placement than lots and lots of rounds to just spray everywhere. So that's kind of where I'm focused. Okay, so
I'm with you there.
Yeah, you know, and I like the XDM. I've shot it a bunch of times, and it's real fast. I mean, in 40 caliber, it's really, really fast. My 1911 is a little slower, but it's what I really like. And so I'm impressed with what you're offering. Now, this is a question that will probably seem negative, but I don't mean it to be negative. When I had our computer manufacturing company, and I was the boss, if you will, of technology at a company that we founded, manufacturing computers in Virginia, I was really concerned about the very first call that I got with a customer saying, I don't like it. I really don't like this thing. Have you gotten a call like that?
Every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what are the reasons? Why would somebody call? I mean, I don't mean to be negative, but let's just get that out in the open. What would somebody say? I can't imagine. I can't imagine why they would say that. But what would be a reason? Why wouldn't they like it?
Well, I think that people are individual enough that, you know, not everybody is going to be best friends with everybody.
Uh-huh.
I worked at a gun counter part-time for some extra money, and because it was a heck of a lot of fun helping people with firearms, you know, not every firearm is for every person. Mm-hmm. And so it's not unusual that somebody will call and say, you know, this thing isn't quite what I thought it was. They saw the pictures. We're going to be trying to get them out into possibly more retailers one of these days, but it's something that they can't just go into a gun store and pick up and hold. So they're really buying it from pictures and from YouTube videos like you've seen. Mm-hmm. It does have a little bit of weight. I will tell you, it is built like a tank. It'll handle just about anything. And so at about 6.5 pounds basic weight, for some people, they feel it's a little heavy. Now, part of me wants to just suggest they do some more push-ups, but that's not necessarily for everybody.
Well,
and
the other side of that coin is, let's say you made it really thin and really lightweight. Then you'd get complaints like, this thing is flimsy and lightweight.
Well, and I've heard I've seen comparisons online of ours compared to a competitor's pistol caliber carbine that is very lightweight, has a very thin barrel. And that can be a problem too. The barrel will heat up a lot faster in that case. It might not hold as true. It might be more susceptible to damage under your seat or in your backpack, or if you drop it. So I like to, you know, and I used to do computer support, and one of our sayings, mostly among us, is, it's not a problem, it's a feature.
Well, years ago, I was a computer jockey as well, and back in the let's say the 80s, AT&T came up with a computer. It was a Unix-based computer, and it was in the very early days of personal computers. And the AT&T salesman was demonstrating it to me. I was in charge of data communications at a bank, and so he was saying, "This is what you need." And I listened to this thing, and the hard drive made so much noise, and I said, "You got to be kidding me! This hard drive, I wouldn't be able to stand this hard drive." Because no, you don't understand. That's so you know it's running. It's a feature.
It's not a problem.
So I understand.
It's a feature.
Yeah. So Mark,
go ahead. Let me put your callers at ease. When somebody doesn't like our product, is not desirous of keeping it, we'll take them back. We have a 30-day, no questions asked, just for that purpose, return policy. Full money back except for the cost of shipping. UPS doesn't give that back to us. But if you buy one and it's just not what you anticipated, or you just don't like the way it feels in your hand or on at your shoulder, call us. We'll get you a return authorization number so we know what's coming in and why it's coming in. But we take them back, and that doesn't happen very often. We have a pretty low return rate, but we will do that.
Here's something that's really interesting, class, and this is not available on all companies' websites. They just don't do this. I think they feel that it's secret information. Well, if you go to handgunconversion.com, as I just have just now, I downloaded the manual for the carbine conversion unit for the 1911. So if you want to see what this is and what it's like to install it, you can download the manual. There's no secret codes. Just go to the website and you can download the manual. You can download it for all three types of pistols. You know, the XD, the Glock, and the 1911. It's right there. And I think that will, if you have any questions, that will answer probably the vast majority of them. So this is what it is. This is how you install it. It's all right there. It's only 5 pages long. Now, your product is not an imported product. It's made 100% in the United States. Is that correct?
Our main product is some of the accessories that we sell. We buy through an accessory dealer, and some of them are made overseas. But the CCU itself is almost 100% made in Montana. Couple of the parts come in from another state, but otherwise, yeah, we're USA, Montana made.
Okay, so we're talking about the barrel is U.S. made.
Mm-hmm. Barrel, housing, bolt channel, all the main working parts that make a CCU, is all U.S. made.
Mark, how long has this product been around? Let's say the 1911 version, for example. How long has it been around and in use?
Well, the 1911 version is the first version because the gentleman that invented this thing was a 1911 guy. They've been sold for about 20 years now.
Okay.
They just haven't always been marketed widely. But it's been around a long time. We occasionally get some of those older units back that are still being shot that maybe they need a little bit of extra loving.
Let me give you very quickly the contact information. So it's handgunconversion.com. And the telephone number, if you choose to call, is 866-433-2122. 866-433-2122. That's in Montana, Mountain Time. Website again, handgunconversion.com. Mark, very quickly, we've got Arjun on hold in New Jersey. We'll be with you in just a moment, Arjun. The least expensive option, as I understand it, from your company is $435. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. What does that get us?
That gets you essentially our basic unit. The basic unit comes with a 6-inch Picatinny rail mounted to the top, and either the fixed stock, as you see in one of the 3 packages that we talked about, or the fourth stock option that we offer is just an M4 adapter. There's a lot of AR guys that have multiple stocks laying around because it's kind of the Lego of the set of the gun world. Mm-hmm. And so if you've got your own buffer tube and stock, then you can get our unit with just the adapter so that you can use your own buffer tube and stock. And so either of those come at that $435 entry level price.
One last question before Arjun, we'll put him on the air from New Jersey. 12-inch barrel coming soon, is that correct?
Yeah, we've decided to put together a package with a 12-inch barrel and an arm brace. It'll kind of be our version of an AR pistol. We've had customers cutting their own barrels down for years and putting arm braces on. And, we've had many requests over the years. Hey, I'd like to get this with a shorter barrel. And we've just been reluctant to go that way because we wanted to make sure that we were stayed in the accessory range and we didn't put customers possibly into the SBR territory. Mm-hmm. But we realized just a short time ago that if we combined an arm brace with that, essentially we could create an AR pistol version. And so with an arm brace and a short barrel, we stay in the pistol field.
Okay. So SBR class is short-barreled rifle. Arjun in New Jersey, welcome. You're on with Mark Allred.
Hey guys, I was just wondering if I want to buy a gun, then I do understand like the Fourth Amendment right you have, like you can go and just buy a gun from anywhere. But like I understand like if you go to a shop, here they will run your background check, they will do like some sort of an FBI background check, something like that. But like if you go to the like gun show, like where they sell these guns, like there, I don't think there will be any background check or whatnot. I'm just wondering that, is it that easy that like they just go and just buy the gun and just have it? Or is it that like the laws will differ from state to state? So in one state you can go and buy a gun from a gun show, but in another state you cannot do that.
Arjun, we understand your question. Mark, your response?
Well, Arjun, to buy a firearm, if you're buying them at as you mentioned, at a gun counter, at a gun store, you're going to do the FFL paperwork, the 4473, to do the background check. If you go to a gun show and you're buying a firearm from somebody with a table, essentially a dealer at a gun show, you're going to have to do that as well with a firearm. Only in those states where you're allowed to make personal sales from one private party to another private party is the only time you can purchase a firearm without doing a background check. Our CCU is not classified as a firearm. It is legally an accessory. It's like buying a new slide and pistol and a new barrel for your Glock or your 1911 because you want a 6-inch barrel instead of a 4-inch barrel on it. That's the classification for our CCU. But for a firearm, you generally always need to do that. And I'm not sure how many states. Do you, Vincent, allow personal sales? I know Montana does.
I can tell you
there are some others.
I don't think New Jersey does, and Arjun is calling from New Jersey. I think the restrictions are pretty serious. I mean, Arjun, you're calling from the poster child of corruption. New Jersey. Here in Missouri, I could go to a gun show and there could be a guy walking around, or a whole bunch of guys. There could be 100 guys walking around and gals with handguns, and I could say, "Are you selling that?" And they say, "Yeah." And I look at it, and may I see it? Yeah. How much do you want for it? 400, 500, whatever the number is. Okay. Will you take a little less? Maybe. How about 450? Okay. And then there's a transaction right there. It's done. That's in Missouri and a few other states, but I don't think that's the case in your corrupt state, Arjun. Arjun, thank you so much for your call. Mark Allred, it's been delightful being on the air with you.
Enjoyed it.
And thank you so much, and we'll do it again and again. Mark Allred. Everyone all set? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. It's just me this hour, and I'll be talking about tips from my unfinished, unavailable book. Things that I do, ways that I do them, and if you have tips that improve on what I'm talking about, and you'd like to give us a call and tell us about those tips, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Please if you're going to call, please be concise. just for tips. No generic commentary on the sad state of affairs worldwide, please. Okay, just tips. Today's it's a big day. It's July 3rd. It's the day before a big national holiday. It's called the 4th of July. That's what it's called. Most people don't even know why it's a holiday. But it's a day to gorge oneself on hot dogs and hamburgers without ham and grilled dead animal flesh. It's a day of explosions. It's a day that stupid people ignite explosives that harm themselves, wild animals, pollute the planet with Chinese pyrotechnics. It's a day to be angry at the father of our country, George Washington, and his henchmen for all the terrible things they've done, including tax evasion, and his cronies, to be angry with them because he and his cronies cooked up schemes against the crown. They were criminals of the crown. It's a day to celebrate the tearing down of American history. It's a day to shred the Constitution. It's a day to, with wild and reckless exuberance, spread the coronavirus so that everyone is equally infected. It's a day in which the GDP will be seen in full bloom. Of course, I'm being facetious. Independence Day is the national holiday that's celebrated on July 4th each year, celebrating the day of which our national independence was declared in 1776, the day in which the 13 original colonies declared themselves independent of the English crown. Men in all 13 original colonies owned slaves. Not all men, but all 13 colonies had men who owned slaves. 41 of the 56 delegates who signed the Declaration of Independence were slave owners. They represented the following northern and southern states. What are they? Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, Maryland, Massachusetts. By the way, John Hancock was from Massachusetts. An insurance company bears his name. Do you think that the protesters are going to wrap a rope around the Hancock Insurance Building and pull it down? New Hampshire was represented. New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. By the way, Ben Franklin was from Pennsylvania. He invented the bifocal glasses. So if you want to protest him and his criminal activities against the crown and helping to found the United States, well, don't wear bifocals because he invented them. Maybe just crush them in protest. Rhode Island was part of the 13 original colonies. So was South Carolina, and so was Virginia. So if you have a problem with any of these signers of the Declaration of Independence, you might want to move to a different state. We've lost our minds here in the United States of America. Okay, so here's some tips. Of course, you know, I'm a farmer, and so is the rest of our family. We're all farmers. We jumped off the corporate ladder. We saw this coming, and we got out of Dodge. We left the East Coast because we knew this was coming. We didn't know the exact trigger. We thought it could be a grid down situation. And by the way, the grid's getting flaky. We thought it could be a pandemic. We thought it could be martial law. We knew the ensuing result would be the supply chain breaking, which it is. So here we are as farmers, and I'm going to give you some tips of things that I think you should think about. And as a farmer, we just experienced a massive drought. And we planted an orchard, a fruit tree orchard. And we have some grapes. We have grapevines. Now, how can you water sufficiently fruit trees? How do you do it? Well, you can take the garden hose and you can have a nozzle and you can have, you can stand there and you can water each tree and you move from tree to tree to tree. And what'll happen is none of the trees will get enough water. Or you can try what I tried. So way before the panic started in the good old days, let's say 6 months ago, there was an ad on Craigslist and there was a guy selling food grade used 5-gallon buckets. And he was selling them at $1.40 each, $1.40 each. And if you wanted the lid, the used lid with the rubber gasket, that was another 10 cents. So $1.50 a piece with the lids. But you had to buy a pallet of them. And in this pallet, there were 100 buckets and lids. And these particular buckets were used for minced garlic. And we can still smell garlic in our barn today. So it's probably going to be with us for another year before it fully volatilizes. But these are food grade buckets. So they didn't have paint. They didn't have, Monsanto chemicals in them. They had food in them. So I have no concern about using them. We rinse them out. And from the inside, I drilled one hole in the center of the bucket. One hole. The diameter of this particular bucket, the hole in this bucket, was about the diameter of a number 2 pencil lead. Let's say 25 to 30 thousandths of an inch. One small hole, just one. And I drilled it from the inside so that the burrs would be on the outside and the burrs would not tend to clog this little tiny hole. And I experimented with just 5 of these buckets because I surely don't want to waste these buckets because they're valuable to farmers. What I did was I carried the buckets, the empty buckets, to each of 5 fruit trees. And I placed the bucket in the lowest area around the fruit tree. Let's say 1.5 feet. The hole would be 1.5 feet or 2 feet from these 5-year-old fruit trees. And I filled the bucket up with water. And what happens is, instead of flooding the area for a short time, for a couple minutes with a garden hose, full volume, the water drips out of the bottom hole of this bucket. Drip, drip, drip. And it takes about an hour for 5 gallons to drip out of this bucket, assuming the hole doesn't get clogged up. And then what I do is I come back later and I fill up the bucket again. I leave it in exactly the same position. I fill it up again. And then I do it again. I do it 3, 4, 5 times. And what happens is the water coming out of the bucket is slow enough to saturate the ground and not run off. It stays right there. And the water softens the soil so that more water can come in and soften more soil, and more water can come in and soften more soil, and then the ground actually gets damp, and the trees can use the water. That, I think, is the best way to do it. Now, what I haven't done is added liquid fertilizer to it yet. And the reason I haven't done that is the puppies love these buckets, and they go over and drink the water out of them. So I don't want to kill the puppies by putting fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, in these buckets. So I've just used water. Now, I could put the lids on them, but I haven't done that yet. So I have experimented with fertilizing these trees, and here's how I've done that. When we lived in Virginia, I could buy a fertilizer called 1717 tobacco fertilizer. It was impressive. 1717 is 17-17-17. Can't get it here. And tobacco fertilizer has micronutrients like iron and sulfur and magnesium. And we can't get that here because we really don't grow much tobacco here in Missouri. But it really makes the garden grow really well if you have the micronutrients. So instead, I've used 1313. So it's 13-13-13. And you can get that pretty much at any farmer's supply store. What I did was, when we had rain, I took a post pounder. And a post pounder is this rod about 6 feet tall. And one end is kind of like chisel pointed. The diameter of this rod is probably 1.5 inches. It's a real heavy rod. Probably weighs 20 pounds. And the other end has a a flattened portion that's about the diameter of a soup can. So if you want to pound a post in, a wooden post, into a hole that's bigger than the post, you fill the hole with dirt, and then you tamp around the dirt, and you push it down, and you compact it. And you add some more dirt, and you compact that. So that's what this thing is. It's this tool. What I do is I take the tool with the sharper end, or you can use a heavy rod with a pointed end. And when the soil is damp, after rain, for example, I jam that into the ground, and I make a hole, let's say, 8 to 12 inches deep around the perimeter of the tree. And then I take a pointed trowel and I add several ounces of fertilizer in the hole. And I have, let's say, 3 or 4 or maybe even more holes around the base of the tree. Let's say 18 inches to 2 feet away from the tree. I fill those holes with fertilizer. And then the next rain, that fertilizer spreads throughout the hole, and the trees grow like crazy. So those are two of the things that we do to make the trees grow and be healthy. One is use the buckets to water the trees during the droughts. And the other thing is to fertilize the trees by pounding a hole or a bunch of holes around the perimeter of the trees. If you over-fertilize, you can kill the tree. If you under-fertilize, it won't grow too well. So you'll have to experiment with it. Less is better as you experiment rather than more. So that's a way you can water your trees in a drought, water your vineyard, maybe even water your garden. Where can you get these buckets? Well, you can look on Craigslist. Now, if you buy one at a time, they're going to be expensive. They're going to be 2 or 3x. Not everybody's going to want to buy 100 buckets. But as farmers, 100 buckets sounds great to us. We use them for everything, carrying tools in the Jeep, carrying fence parts out for fencing jobs, organizing things in the barn. We use them for lots and lots of purposes. We'll be right back. I've got some more tips for you. If you'd like to call in, 866-582-9933. Okay, so where do you get the buckets? Well, I don't recommend going shopping because I haven't been shopping. I haven't been in any stores, since the good old days, before the panic. But and I don't recommend you go, but if you're gonna go, or if you're gonna have somebody go to like the Chinese factory outlet, in their bakery, they use these buckets, and they come in square and also cylindrical styles. And they will sell them to you for some amount of money. Now, typically, nothing goes out of Walmart without a price tag and being paid for. So if they have 4 or 5 or 6 of them, they'll probably charge you 99 cents, and you pay them 99 cents, and you get these rinsed out buckets. If they don't have them, you can say, hey, my name's Joe, or Tom, or Mary, and will you save some for me, and I'll be back next week. And they'll say, sure. Okay. So you can get them very inexpensively. And some of the smaller buckets are really handy. When I go and feed the chickens, now we have 16 chickens. When I go to feed them, I bring a white bucket, and they all know what that means. They all come running, and that's how I get them back in the chicken pen. I let them out during the day, and they go looking for bugs and worms and things like that, and grass and leaves and greens, and then when I want to bring them back into the chicken coop, I bring this bucket and I kind of shake it, and it has chicken scratch and it has chicken crumbles, which are like 16% protein, and I have some corn in there with it, and I call them, and they all come running. They just it's like dinner time, and back into the chicken pen they go. And I use the same buckets to these really convenient, handy, let's say 1 gallon or 1.5 or 2 gallon buckets. I give them their feed in that, and when I pour the feed into the chicken feeder, then I use the same bucket to bring the eggs back into the house. So they're really handy. So I suggest that if you haven't gotten some, find a way to get some if you're going to be somewhat more independent. One of the things that is a real concern to me is products that come from China. Now, I really don't like buying products that come from China, but right now there's not much choice. For example, if you have a car that has a key fob, you push the button and unlock the doors, that kind of a key fob, they typically contain one or two cells, also known as batteries, typically incorrectly known as batteries. And the ones I'm talking about are about the size of a quarter in thickness and diameter. And they have two styles that are commonly used. One is called a CR 2025, and another style is called the CR 2032. So CR 2025 and CR 2032. They're identical in size except for the thickness. The CR 2032s are just a little bit thicker, and they have a higher milliampere hour rating, which means they have a larger electrical capacity. The CR 2032s do. If you have a car that has a transponder, it needs to have a good battery in the key fob in order for that darn car to start. Otherwise, it'll think it's being stolen. Seriously. So what are you going to do if you don't have these batteries for your keys for your car? And what happens if they wear out? Well, you just go to, the store and buy some, right? Well, maybe not. So what do? Well, what I did was I bought a bunch of them, and they're very inexpensive if you buy them in a lot. What would be a lot? Well, 5 or 10. Well, the price for 5 sometimes is more expensive than the price for 10. So I buy them in 10 packs. I have a bunch of 10 packs, and I keep them cool and dark. And I keep them in a freezer bag, but not in the freezer. I just keep them cool at a constant temperature. So if you have a basement, maybe that's the place to do it. If you have a dehumidifier running, if it rains in your basement, that's not the place for it. So you can buy them on eBay. Now, how much do they cost? Well, you can get a 10-pack on eBay of the CR 2025s or the CR 2032s for $3.55 shipped. 10 of them for $3.55. That's 36 cents a piece. Shipped. So, what do you buy? Well, make sure you get the right battery size. So look in your manual, or look in, if you open up your key fob, and make sure you've got the right size in there to begin with, and then get the same right size. Now, I would only recommend you get name brands like Panasonic, Sony, Maxell, Maxell, Duracell, or some other name brand. Class, it's just me today, and I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts about things you should consider going forward down this horrible path of the corona panic. The batteries that I talked about, or these cells, these key fob batteries, they have about a 5-year shelf life. So when you look at eBay for them, and I think eBay is the best place to buy them. That's where I get ours. Take a look at the expiration date, because if they're going to expire soon, you're not going to have the shelf life that you expect. So you want these things to last for years, because I have a feeling, since they come from China, some come from Japan, but most come from China, you're going to want them to last a long time as we sever more and more of our relations with China. I really don't want to say this, but I feel that I need to. David will be with you in just a minute, please. I really don't want to say this, but I've been put in a position where I have to. I've heard some things on USA Prepares that I do not agree with, and I can't let them stand. I am not going to ask a third grader for advice on what I should be teaching a third grader. I'm not going to let an unsupervised child make food for me, which I would eat, or I would not buy lemonade from a child's lemonade stand, because I don't think that children understand toxicity and biologicals at the age where a third grader, I don't think a third grader would understand. So I'm not going to put me or my family at risk by eating food that a third grader would pick from the wild. At that age, children don't have the experience that adults have. They haven't been around long enough. Children are not smarter, in my opinion, than adults. They have the capability to learn. They're like a sponge. I think that's great. But they're not smarter, in my opinion. So my advice and counsel to you is don't eat wild plants unless you know exactly what you're doing. Some are highly toxic. Others are mildly toxic. Let me give you an example. Hemlock is extremely poisonous. In fact, people have died from eating wild game birds that have eaten hemlock seeds. Seriously. So while it's wonderful to help and teach young people, I'm not going to ask a third grader for advice and counsel if I were going to teach them. I also want to tell you that I only do two things. USA Prepares and farming. And I help our sons, with automotive things. I help our son with his automotive business. That's it. I am not involved in any outside extracurricular type activities. I'm not involved with the Lions Club, the Kiwanis Club, or any other clubs. I'm not involved with any particular church. I'm not involved with any university. I can't do it. I'm overwhelmed as it is. And if anything has to go, it's going to be radio. That's going to be the first to go. I'm not suggesting that I'm going to quit radio. I'm just saying I'm overwhelmed. I decided to listen to some talk radio over the last few weeks, maybe a couple months, but just a little bit. I mean, a little bit. And I'm furious about what I've heard. I'm still hearing people say, hosts and guests. Ours are instructors. They're not guests because they actually are teaching. But I'm still hearing people say, hosts and guests, that the COVID-19 is fake, it's a fraud, to use their terms, it's BS. My question is, have they lost their minds? The virus is real, it's infectious, and it's deadly. The cost of this thing is helping to collapse economies of first world countries all over the world. The ensuing corona panic has destroyed the U.S. economy, and it's not coming back for decades, in my opinion. And the stupid GDP are infecting all those around them. If it's a store's policy that says on the door, wear a mask, who do people think they are going into those stores without wearing a mask? That's like me saying in the good old days, hey, we don't smoke in our house, and then having somebody light one up in the kitchen. It's offensive. It's wrong. It's impolite. And with the coronavirus, it's deadly. The coronavirus is extremely contagious. And the purpose of the masks is really simple. If you went to an urgent care facility in the good old days, and let's say you were coughing and hacking and coughing, this is before the panic. Last year, for example, they would say, here's a mask. Now, why would they do that? To keep you from spewing out all those germs and making them airborne for 30 feet. It was to contain it to you. That's the purpose of the mask, to keep you from spreading it. So who do people think they are going into stores without masks? Because right now, you can be asymptomatic, no symptoms whatsoever, and be spreading deadly coronavirus. City real estate is in free fall. Mass transit is in free fall. The supply chain is broken. The beginnings of the shooting civil war and revolution are here right now. Gun and ammo purchases are at record highs, and so are the prices. People are afraid. People are pointing guns at protesters because they're terrified. The internet is currently slowing down, and in many places it's unstable. Phone calls aren't being connected. Calls in progress are being dropped. Single-ply 1,000 sheet toilet paper is now unobtainium. People have gone mad. They can't pay their mortgage, their car payments, and their rent. The landlords are panicking. The people who have obligated themselves to these monthly payments are panicking. And tomorrow, July 4th, there will be fireworks all over the country. I predict, I'm not calling for this, please don't think I'm inciting this, I am not, but I predict that fireworks will be used as weapons. And then the government will call for the banning of fireworks in the hands of the villagers. And the shooting will escalate. Yesterday, the United States of America became number one again. We're number one. Globally, we are number one. 55,000 cases of infected people in 24 hours. That's 38 people a minute. We've infected more of ourselves than any other nation on earth. So far, 2.7 million of us have been infected in the United States. 2.7 million. Tomorrow is party day, gluttony day, hot dog day, the day we infect each other. And we don't even know the real reason for the national holiday. How dumb are young people at the University of Washington? How dumb are they? 80 students are living in fraternity houses, and they have tested positive for COVID-19. 80 of them. Hundreds more are awaiting testing. These are strong, invincible spreaders that are going to bring back home to their grandparents, their parents, their aunts, their uncles, their sisters, their brothers, and neighbors, COVID-19. I've said it before, and we only have a few options. Option number 1, destroy lives. Option number 2, destroy the economy. Or option number 3, both. Your governments at state, local, federal, county seemingly have infinite carelessness, recklessness, and stupidity. And which option have they picked? Number 3. Both. Destroy the economy and destroy lives. The Federal Reserve right now distributes currency. There's currently a shortage of coinage. They say it's because, well, those of us who buy things aren't bringing our tokens to the businesses. So the businesses can't make change, the ones that are opened. So they're rationing tokens. There's a move afoot, well, to fix this problem. We don't need no stinking pennies. We don't need them. That's what they say. They say that pennies cost the consumers a fortune. Hundreds of millions of dollars a year because they handle pennies. Because to make change, they say, well, okay, let me count out the change, and here are pennies in the change. They say that we're wasting time by giving people the correct amount of change. Can you imagine that? What a stupid thing to say. There are articles all over the internet saying, let's dump the penny. You know what that means? That means if you buy something for $1, it's going to cost you 2.5 cents more because there'll be a rounding error. It'll round it up. So if you don't have pennies, what's the next denomination? That'd be a nickel. Now, do you think they're going to say, well, listen, I'll tell you what, let's take a nickel off? No. They're going to charge more. I'll tell you how bad it is. Right now, at this second, a copper penny that was minted between 1909 and 1982 almost pure copper, 95% copper, is worth 2 cents. A penny is worth 2 cents. Your government can't allow that. Your government says, we're not going to put 2 cents worth of copper plus the minting cost into a thing that we circulate as a penny. The reason that it costs more to make a penny than a penny is because of the massive inflation that's caused by the almost unlimited printing of unbacked currency. A dime that was minted between 1916 and 1964, it's a lot of years, a dime is now worth $1.30 in silver. So if you want to buy a dime, it'll cost you $1.30 to buy a dime, 10 cents. Why is that? Because we've reduced the purchasing power of U.S. currency to the point where it costs $1.30 to buy 10 cents. We're boxed in. We can't get out. The revolution and the Civil War combined have started here in the USA. It's the government against the people. It's corporate greed against the people. Okay, we're back, and I've never had to do this before, but I'm going to have to do it. We have David on line 1, Kevin in Florida on line 2, Kathy on line 3. We've got just about a minute and a half for each of you. Can you please be concise? David, welcome.
Yeah, when I do batteries and like those batteries, have you had any experience with purchasing the rechargeable CR style batteries?
No, I haven't. I have not done that, but I can tell you that I have seen what happens with a no-name battery in a watch, and it can leak and destroy the watch. So be really careful and stay with a name brand battery. And I don't have any problem with Maxell, Maxell, or Panasonic or Sony.
Yeah, because what I do is I carry regular batteries, but for long term, I like to keep rechargeable batteries because I have portable solar panels or inverters or generators or anything to charge them up. I'm looking down the line. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm thinking that a lot of things are going to go wrong, and I don't know how long the equipment is going to last. So I'm thinking keep it cool and keep it dry, and I think I might get 10 years out of it. I don't know if a rechargeable, even if it kept it charged, would last 10 years as well. I mean, I don't know. I've used rechargeables over the years, and what I find is they don't last very long. They really don't.
Yeah, they tend to degrade after a while. Okay, hey, I'll let you go. You got a lot of people. Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much, David.
Right.
Kevin in Florida, welcome.
Hey, Vincent, how you doing today? Wanted to talk about the fireworks real quick. I spoke with one of my customers who's retired military and's got some human intel that the police are concerned that fireworks are going to be used to distract their gunshot microphones that they use, a system called Shot Spotter, which they basically would distract the police by using fireworks, draw them to one area, and then commit crimes in another. So that's
it makes sense. It makes sense to me. And if you add to that these rocket type fireworks, I think the police are even more concerned about having these rockets being launched at them. Now, I'm talking about bigger than bottle rockets. I saw a video of a guy who launched one and it went in his open window of his house. So he was, playing with fireworks that would go airborne, rockets, and one of them went sideways into his open window and burned down his house, like in a couple minutes. Yep.
And there's
anything else, Kevin?
Surplus. There's definitely been a surplus of fireworks. Something else that this guy also said is don't think that there aren't retired soldiers out there who will be, bribed for money to work on the side of these leftist Marxists. Don't underestimate them and think that they're just ragtag, stupid idiots. They've got professional soldiers on their payroll.
Yeah, and also, if you're protesting peacefully and you bring your cell phone, you are on the list because they know who you are. Kevin, thanks so much. I'll see you next week on Friday, right?
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
Great. Hey, thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Kathy. Welcome. Kathy's in Ohio.
Hi, Vince.
Hey, by the way, just real quickly, I get lots of positive comments about you and Kevin. I should have mentioned that when Kevin was on with us a few seconds ago. But the class loves you guys, so I just want to tell you that.
Thank you. Vince, I wanted to tell you our local grocery store, you could not use cash at most of the registers, especially the self-checkout. It was credit card only. There was a big sign saying due to the national coin shortage. And so people had to use their credit cards. And if you only had cash, I don't know. It didn't even give you the option to take it.
Yep. And, you know, there are people who have had these coin jars for years and years, as all my life. You know, for 68 years, I remember seeing coin jars, and people would just, you know, if they had some odd change from transactions, they'd put the tokens in these coin jars. So it'd be pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, halves, and sometimes silver dollars back when I was, you know, young. And they just collect them. And then every once in a while they'd bring them back to the bank and convert it to paper currency. Well, I mentioned years ago that I bought some pennies, and I bought them so that, you know, if I ever have grandchildren, I can say, see this? Grandpa, what's that? Well, we used to use these. Yeah, what'd you use them for? Well, I don't know, but now we're going to make washers out of them. We're going to drill a hole in the middle of them and make copper washers out of them. They're going to be, young people won't know that we actually use currency, that you can hand people and settle your debt right then and there. So you might want to keep that in mind, class. Currency's going away, and the generally dumb public thinks, oh, no, we don't need pennies. It's too hard. But that settles the debt exactly to the penny. And if you get rid of pennies, you can't settle the debt to the penny anymore. Any quick comments, Kathy? We've got 20 seconds.
Well, Vince, the other thing I wanted to say was I tried to make an appointment, and every place I went, the price has gone up. One place, it was $40 an additional.
There you go. That's what we've been saying. It's here. Yep. The inflation, the wild inflation is here. Kathy, thanks so much. I'll see you next Friday.